Rebecca believed God's promise, but she didn't trust his timing. Before Esau and Jacob were born, God spoke clearly to Rebecca. In Genesis 25:23, God said, "Two nations are in your womb, and the older will serve the younger." This was a real word from God. But scripture also tells us something else, something crucial. In Genesis 25:28, Isaac loved Esau, but Rebecca loved Jacob. And that favoritism became the lens through which Rebecca acted. Years later, when Isaac prepares to bless Esau, Rebecca overhears and immediately moves into action. In Genesis 27:8, she says, "Now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you." She schemes. She instructs Jacob to deceive his father. She dresses him in Esau's clothes, and she even prepares the meal. She even takes responsibility for the deception. When Jacob is concerned his father might figure it out and curse him instead of bless him, in Genesis 27:13, she says, "Let your curse be on me, my son." Rebecca believed the promise, but she didn't trust God to fulfill it without her manipulation. Rebecca wasn't trying to overthrow God's plans. She was just trying to secure it herself. But scripture shows us that her motive wasn't purely faith, it was favoritism. She didn't just trust the word of the Lord, she trusted her own methods. God never told Rebecca to deceive Isaac. He told her what would happen, but not how to make it happen. Yes, Jacob received the blessing, and God's purpose still prevailed. But the cost of what Rebecca and Jacob did was heavy. Jacob fled his home, Esau burned with bitterness, and it's very likely that Rebecca never saw Jacob again. God's will still stood, but human interference caused unnecessary pain. And this story speaks directly to parents, especially mothers. Sometimes your love could turn into control. Your concern can turn into pressure, and you could let your faith turn into fear-driven manipulation. Others may try to push doors open too early. You may try to force opportunities. Mothers could even speak over children what God has not spoken. But wisdom tells us in Proverbs 3:5, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Rebecca shows us what happens when we try to help God out. But scripture reminds us in Hebrews 10:23, he who promised is faithful. God can fulfill his word without our human interference.